Welcome to Popcast Deluxe, your ice cream so good of weekly cultural review. I'm John Caramanica.
I'm Joe Coscarelli.
Two of your favorite NPCs here hosting our show, going over the weekend, internet insanity, music, television, film, whatever all else. We're going to catch up on some virality this week. First, we're going to talk about people throwing things at people. This has been happening for a while. I'm sort of avoiding talking about it. Kind of maybe didn't want to give people more reason to throw things.
Right. It's a self-fulfilling cycle.
That's what it's become.
Depravity.
Yes. It's an ungenerous thing, but it's everywhere. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the rise of Pinkydoll. This is, again, as I said last week, sometimes things happen in the space between episodes that just absolutely fully arc. Pinkydoll is that thing. We're going to talk Troye Sivan, Post Malone. Who knows what else we're going to get to. Briefly, last week we talked about the T-shirts. There was no photo of a T-shirt. So here, this is a Popcast T-shirt. It's the popcast.myshopify.com. Those are the stickers. That's the logo. Listen to Purple Haze. This is what it looks like. You've seen what it looks like? Who should I throw this at?
Don't break anything.
Don't break anything. But imagine if there was a performer who I could throw this at.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas.
Yeah, who would it be? All right. Imaginary pop star.
Imaginary pop star ducking the Popcast T-shirt. Maybe that's what I should do when I go to the Drake tour.
Right.
Just be throwing Popcast
Well,
T-shirts.
Adele had the T-shirt gun on stage when she was being like, don't you dare throw anything at me.
Stay strapped, for real. All right. Let's talk about how you can throw yourself into viral infamy. In the last 3 weeks, quite a bit has happened. Bebe Rexha was hit in the face with an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Pink was on stage, and someone threw ashes of allegedly, of a deceased relative. People have thrown things at Drake. Harry Styles
Got hit in the eye with something. Yeah.
Who else?
Ava Max
Sure.
caught one. Kelsey Ballerini.
Yeah, Kelsey Ballerini. Yep.
Got hit. Drake got hit in the wrist with a cell phone. People are throwing things at the people that they paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to see.
I have a couple things. I have a lot of things to say.
Yeah.
One, look, this has been happening forever. I've certainly been at any number of shows over the years where people have thrown things on stage, potentially out of hostility, potentially out of affection, potentially out of, I just want you to have this thing. It could be flowers. It could be a phone. It could be a note. That happens. Obviously, we've all seen bras or underwears thrown on stage. And every now and again, I've seen things thrown from the stage into the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a festival in Monterey, the Todd P Festival many years ago.
Wow, that's a legendary weekend.
Boy, was it. Google my write-up. There's a lot happened that weekend. But I saw an early incarnation of, the original incarnation of Das Racist. Someone in that group threw a bottle and hit a girl in the head, and she was bleeding for the rest of the night. But it still was in the pit, kind of.
Aggressive throw or like a celebratory throw?
What's in between that?
It was mischievous.
It was careless and mischievous.
Okay. Different time.
Yeah, different time. So I've seen it both ways. The thing that's happening right now is these things are filmed. Everybody's filming concerts all the time. So these things are filmed. They're captured, and they immediately go viral. And I think we are now at the point where people are doing it with the intent of it being captured and going viral. To which I ask, why? What is to be gained? Tell me what you think's happening.
Okay, I think the original sin here, insofar as this is a new phenomenon, whatever this version of it is, comes specifically from stars taking selfies with fans' cell phones.
So a lot of times you'll see in the front row, you'll see a fan doing this to get them with the star. And sometimes you will see them handing it in hopes that the star will take a photo with them or in the background, or if they're on a live or something like that, the star will become part of the thing. And so what happens is you have this barrier between stage and fan that is porous.
Yes.
And it is porous in part because the star has said it is okay in some cases to break this wall.
So I think it starts with people, like you said, taking their own selfie where the star's in the background. Then the star breaks that fourth wall, comes into the thing. Maybe you're on FaceTime with your friend who couldn't make the show. The star pops into the frame, and that's exciting. And then you have the star saying, just toss me your phone and I'll do it, or I'll take a 360 of the whole stage. So that allows the cell phone to then leave the hand of the audience member, and they're confident that they'll get it back, like
somehow.
Yeah, like Drake is not going to steal your cell phone because he has his own cell phones.
Toss it somewhere else, but you'll get it back theoretically.
Eventually, you get it back, and then I think from there it's a free for all. The first one of those goes crazy, traffic wise. Audience cares about it. Then every time it happens, it starts to feel like it's part of a pattern. So then I think you have people, doing stunt throws. I don't know what they're, something like the ashes, somebody throwing ashes toward Pink. It's over the line, but you know that's going to be a headline. It's going to be on TMZ. It's going to be on the Daily Mail, etc.
And in a sense, that's the show. And again, I don't want to be like some fuddy-duddy and be like, you should come to a concert and you should sit here with your hands on your knees and be respect. It's like, look, I've been at shows where fights have broken out, where people on stage have jumped into the crowd and absolutely
you remember
beat the living.
You remember Offset doing like the full stage dive superhero move?
Full beat the absolute, or even, like there was that thing with Miguel a few years ago where he like tried to leap over the crowd and instead kick someone in the head and da-da-da. Like, I'm not saying that there is one, like we don't have to go to Carnegie Hall and just sit there and politely observe what's happening. But I do think on some level what is changing is not simply concert norms for how a performer performs and how someone observes a performer, but the show is not, I went to watch Drake. The show is, I went to document myself at the Drake show. The Drake content of that is sort of secondary or incidental to the individual's content. And I think that's kind of what's evolving right now. And if you can do something that's like a little bit outrageous, a little bit unexpected, that's kind of where this is moving. And I think if you think the show, if you pay $300 for the Drake ticket so that you can put on a show, you're going to have a very different experience in that room than someone who paid $300 to see Drake.
Or you're paying $300 to watch other people watch Drake. Like, you have these moments where fans are filming other fans reacting in a way that they don't think. Everyone is just trying to go viral, basically. You remember, obviously, the clip with the girls at the baseball game making fun of the other girl who was making content in front of them. Like, this sort of panopticon of people filming one another is leading to additional chaos. You have people theorizing that this is like a post-pandemic sort of feral behavior. Like, what do you make of that?
I think the feral aspect has more to do with this.
With social media and phones.
Yeah, but I do think there's some small part of it that maybe there's a bunch of people who are now attending big concerts who it's been 4 years since they've attended a big concert, or maybe they were too young to attend a big concert before they ended up at whatever the
Bebe Rexha.
Yeah, Bebe Rexha. Great way to come back, I should say, if you've been 4 years off, all you Rexars. Yeah. Like, I respect that choice. Yeah. But maybe there's just no entry point. It's just like raw clay. And so maybe that's what's happening. I don't think it's a pandemic specific thing, but I don't think it helps if you have an entire micro generation who've never been to a big show, who are now emerging during the summer of everybody being back on the road and kind of like not knowing exactly what you're supposed to do, especially when for the last 3 years the show has exclusively been on your phone.
Right.
And how can you behave in a way that gets you attention. I think something that stars aren't really used to is competing for attention with the people who are in the crowd. That's not something that they're necessarily conditioned to think about. And getting hit by something or observing people throwing things or dodging, it's like a rupture in the space-time continuum, because theoretically, if you're performing, you want to be totally zoned in. You're like, I'm on stage, I'm the star, I'm radiating outward. But when you realize that you got to field incoming traffic, that actually changes what kind of performance you can give. I don't dare, but no one's thrown anything at Taylor that I'm aware of. But like, can you imagine how something like that would function in such a tightly choreographed show? I think it's safe to say Drake, not that it's unchoreographed or unplanned, but it's not choreographed at the level of the Eras Tour, Bebe Rexha, etc., Pink, etc. I'm not saying there's no choreography, but I am saying that like they're maybe not as grand and not as well oiled. How does something like that function, God forbid, if it happens in that setting?
Yeah, and I do think there's some.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just don't do it and say we. Don't say we thought of it.
Don't test them.
Do not do it.
I thought it was interesting that Drake sort of, right from the jump of his tour, said, "I don't want to see anything up here but bras," and then the next night got what he asked for.
Sure.
In like I think it was like, you saw some piles of bras coming his way. I think, you've had people look a little bit angrier. There was one where Lotto was performing at a festival, I think overseas, and she incorporated it into her song and her choreography by saying like, I saw that, I dare you to do it again. Like, don't mess with me. Mm-hmm. That was pretty intense. But this is becoming something that everyone has to address, both on stage and off. Billie Eilish is giving interviews about it. It's like the hot etiquette topic of concerts this summer. And like, that's unfortunate.
Okay, it's obviously unfortunate, but maybe here on Popcast Deluxe, we should be solution oriented.
Okay.
Is there a fix? I have a couple of ideas.
Yonder bags. You know what I'm talking about? Not sponsored. They'll just throw the yonder. At least it's padded.
That's true. Is there a fix? Because you're never going to have a situation where you're going to have to check your phones. Yeah. Because people, like, if you're a famous person, you want people posting videos and
good for
photos.
The tour.
It's good for the tour. So it can't be that. It's not going to be yonder bags because it's too... Especially in an arena, 15,000 people, 20,000 people, the labor attached to that's really, really
Comedians
high.
do it.
At that scale?
Chappelle does it for arenas.
At that scale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is crazy. But
that is really crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure the investment is insane.
Okay. So...
But you're right. That doesn't save someone from throwing the bag itself.
No, and also I've seen plenty of people sneak phones into yonder spaces. Sorry.
I also broke a phone out of a yonder case once when I needed it to take notes.
Did you?
That's journalism.
I
think we were together.
Oh, you're right. Wait, what's the crack? Do you want to?
Strong hands.
Okay. Y'all are not out here with Joe Coscarelli's fingers. That's a one-man show right there. Is it wrong? Also, don't do this to the Beyonce tour. Oh, Lord. Oh, no, someone did.
Someone tried Beyonce, I think. Again, never wise. There's certain people you just don't test.
Do not do... Like, Julius will get you.
Yeah.
Like, Julius will come for you. Should there be a net between the performer and the stage?
No one's going to like that.
I'm not saying it has to go all the way to the ceiling, but what if it's...
like a baseball game, for foul balls.
Yeah. What if it's 20 feet high?
Oof. I don't like that one bit.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't want to have to write the news story or the critic's notebook when, like, Taylor, Beyonce, Drake, or Bebe Rexha.
I mean, Bebe Rexha went to the hospital. There was, like, criminal charges.
Yeah, and that guy said something to the effect of... I thought it would be funny.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, here's another fix.
Is there a net?
That's really makes it impersonal and makes them more like zoo animals than ever
Because
before.
I also think, frankly, if there is a net, people will test the net.
Yeah.
Like, people will bring things specifically to throw.
This is why I think the Drake solution is elegant in some way, and I'll go back to the Harry Styles.
It's also not a
but the Harry
solution, though.
Styles arena shows, the thing is at a Harry Styles show is a feather boa, and then eventually there's feather boas getting thrown on the stage, but that's soft and they land easily. You know what I mean? If there's something, whether it's a paper flower or a fan, or if there's something that can be part of the show that is safe, a safe object, maybe that sort of redirects fan attention, and they'll know that like there's a moment when it's fine to throw your bra at Drake. I don't know. I mean, it's not great. Here's the other solution. If the internet stops writing about it and stops bringing attention to it, I think people will stop doing it.
Yeah, but what is that exactly? Because let's say news organizations
Right.
stop writing about it.
Blackout. Yeah.
Let's say everybody's handshakes.
Sure.
Not going to do it. Still going to travel on TikTok. Still going to travel on Instagram. Like, I don't think the mark of success of someone throwing something at Bebe Rexha or whoever is, did a major accredited news outlet write about it. It's, did we get 1 million views? And that's never going to change. You're asking people to change their entire ethical profiles. That seems really unlikely.
What are the phone budgets of these people, though? Like, who can just lose a phone? Who can just risk losing a phone?
Let's keep it a buck. What if you're rocking with an iPhone 9?
You're just like, I'll get a new one next week?
Literally. What if you're rocking with like a 7?
Like, it's worth it.
What if you're rocking with a 12? I actually don't know what kind of iPhone I have.
I don't even know what number we're on.
No, but I'm saying, what if you're like the trade-in value of this phone?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a smooth $12.
So like, how are you gonna get home? Like, who's gonna call your
Uber? What if
Uber?
you brought a second phone? What if you got 2 phones?
Yeah.
One for the throw and one for the filming.
Dark.
Yeah.
Dark.
You're really on that Kevin Gatesing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think there's no fix?
I think, like all fads, it's just gonna run its course. Like, it's just gonna stop being novel, and no one's gonna want to be the 61st person to hit Drake in the ankle with something hard.
But let me counterpoint you a little bit, because this is something I've been thinking a lot about this, again, the porous barrier between the stage and the crowd. We're talking about people in the crowd throwing things, violating that space. What about the other way around? What about when the performers invite people to come on stage? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't do this, but I'm saying this is, you look at videos from the Usher tour, out here wrecking Keke Palmer's relationship, Taraji P. Henson, serenading Taraji P. Henson, like Usher inviting people up, serenading them. I have seen any number of pop stars bring people onto stage. I mean, Romeo Santos used to literally make out with fans or kiss.
Yeah, a lot of lap dance situations.
A lot of lap dance from female performers to unsuspecting.
Brittany in
male
Vegas
fans.
used to put someone on a leash every night.
I remember. Who was that? I think when I reviewed the Brittany in Vegas tour, I think it was Mario Lopez.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, special moment in pop history.
Performers going into the crowd or bringing the crowd onto the stage.
Bringing the crowd on the stage. And so when you're doing that, part of what the subtext of that is this is safe. I'm inviting some degree of violating of my space as a performer. Now, I'm not saying it's the same thing, and I'm not saying it's an invitation to have someone's phone thrown at your head, but I do think that if we're going to talk about behavioral patterns, and we could say unequivocally having something thrown at you while you're performing is bad. And I'm not saying inviting someone on stage is bad, but they function similarly, which is they say, hey, this barrier, you've paid X $100 to watch me. That barrier is not inviolate. And because of that, I think people are learning that the show exists on stage, it exists in the crowd, it exists in the phone, it exists in some combination of those spaces. And I don't know, maybe everybody should go to Carnegie Hall, but I think it's unlikely. And I say, look, as a person that's been, like I said, in clubs where fights broke out and worse than fights and, spaces that cleared out in 30 seconds when something crazy goes on between the stage and the crowd. Like, obviously you never want to be in a situation like that. but I do think
the more we lower those
it's
barriers.
hand in hand, what you're seeing from the crowd coming on stage feels a little bit hand in hand with what you're seeing on the stage pulling in the crowd.
I do think you're right to bring up value, though, and the price of the ticket, because I feel like these artists, especially as the shows and the stars get bigger and bigger, feel like they have to bring this intimacy to the crowd to give people what they paid for. I'm sure you've seen like the Drake show. He's starting it by walking through the stadium, through the arena, like being touched by the people. Yeah. And I think that that's like giving however many people he walks by, dozens or hundreds, where he's in their space and they get an amazing selfie or a close-up. I think it's giving them that value, giving that many more people a huge amount of value. Going back to Kanye's floating stage,
of course,
this was playing with that idea. And actually, the smartest version of it that I've seen since then of playing with these things, all of the things we've been touching on, is the most recent Rosalia tour, where it's all based on cell phone videos, selfies. Everybody, all the dancers have these cameras. There's all these moving cameras, like the sort of Frank Ocean, Spike Jones thing.
Like the documentation that's happening on the stage, which then goes onto the screen, parallels the documentation that's happening from the crowd to the stage.
Yes.
So it's this kind of like complete loop, almost like an Ouroboros. Like,
yes.
Is that how I pronounce that?
Sure, why not?
Great.
And she goes into the crowd. She takes selfies with people. She takes people's cell phones. They take the official cell phone. It's this whole interplay. But I think because of how thought out it is and how ultimately artistic it is in presentation, it makes people less likely to break the rules because it feels like they're all in it together. So I think that's a very savvy way to sort of head off people who might be doing something that would cross a line.
Yeah, although I do think on a final note, like, there are always going to be people for whom being at the concert is not about watching the show. And I think those people 10 years ago didn't have anything to do or nowhere to put that energy. It's like, I'm sure you've been at shows where you're like, damn, these people next to me are really talking a lot and not paying attention. Right. It sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, those people with this energy are kind of like,
yeah.
And that's a drag. Maybe you should channel your energies, if that's what you feel like doing, into giving some gifts to Pinkydoll.
I mean, these things are not unrelated.
No, they're not. Talking about rogue energy.
Yes.
Joe, I mean, talk to the people about Pinkydoll. This has been a wild 5 days.
All right. Pinkydoll is what's known as an NPC streamer. Now, if you knew what an NPC streamer was before last week,
yeah,
either
skip this, but
yeah. I mean, either you're really into video games or other things, or you work for a publication where you have to write about digital spaces. Yeah. Okay. Tell me how you first experienced Pinkydoll, because I'll tell my quick story. So the key thing here is that Pinkydoll is a TikTok live sensation.
Right, not a TikTok sensation.
A TikTok live sensation, a very specific thing. Yeah, exactly. And what happened was Pinkydoll crossed over into other streams of social media.
Recordings of the lives.
Recordings of TikTok lives. This is often where people's brains get scrambled. Something that seems normal and that is part of a subculture or a pattern of behavior in one space, when you all of a sudden pull it into another,
context collapses.
It seems completely bizarre. The context collapse is...
To be fair, it seems completely bizarre, even in its correct context.
Agreed.
Very bizarre.
But with this in particular, Pinkydoll Live came attached with a tweet that said something along the lines of, every time I happen upon a TikTok live, I feel like I'm watching the world end. So what I saw in the still of the video was a woman with her tongue out holding a hair straightener. So I was like, there's no way I'm clicking on this thing where a woman is going to lick her hot hair straightener. Like, I really thought that it was going to be a sort of, Jackass style.
Yeah.
gross out video. So for days, I
Like
just scrolled
sixth,
by
like
it.
a 6th tier stunt.
Yeah, I was just like,
Daredevil type
there's
thing.
no way I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I know what's gonna happen here, and I can't watch it. So I saw all the reactions to it,
Yeah, yeah.
and then a few days later, I started seeing people writing in text, "Ice cream, so good, gang gang," and it took me a minute to realize those were the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I started thinking, ice cream, gang gang. And this is how it shows how internet brained I am. At first, I thought the ice cream so good was about the woman who was mad that one of her dates tried to take her to get ice cream because she
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, I'm 26, I don't go on ice cream dates. And then people fought about whether an ice cream date was valid or not.
For what it's worth, like I think that sounds like a lovely date.
Agreed.
Like literally ice cream gelato.
Yeah.
Luigi's
Italian ice.
Luigi's Italian ice. Are you kidding me?
So good.
Obviously,
gang gang.
gang, absolutely. Like, first of all, I'm gonna go to Luigi's just in protest. I'm gonna go to Luigi's this week.
Anyway, it took me a really long time to realize what was what in this scenario.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch some Pinkydoll videos. And what I found was a woman pretending to be an NPC, a non-playable character, someone in the background of a video game, Grand Theft Auto, The Sims, making weird movements. I don't like.
Yeah,
you're not. Neither of us are video game guys. So like,
No.
how did you first? How did you first absorb
I mean,
this?
Again, video games. This is obviously. I've watched more Twitch streams than I play video games,
Right.
And obviously this is exaggerated behavior. It's in the style of an endlessly playable, non-playable character.
Yeah.
This also has some interesting implications for the current actor strike.
Yes.
This is what y'all are fighting against.
Yes.
Just for the record.
The real NPCs.
Although true, like give Pinkydoll an Emmy though, like just for what it's worth. But like this is what y'all.
Pinkydoll might be hosting, writing, and starring in the Emmys and the Oscars.
Absolutely, and Popcast Deluxe. Pinkydoll right here. We're just gonna be quiet for the entire episode. So from a Twitch perspective, one of the things that I find challenging about Twitch is in the way that we were just talking about how a concert is like, it's about what happens between the fan and the artist, but it's also about what happens between the fan and the fan next to them. The Twitch stream ecosystem where I'm like, I'm watching you do a thing, but the thing you're doing is interacting with other people.
Commenters.
That I'm not keeping up with or not totally privy to. My brain's too small. I can't handle that. So I watched this and I thought, okay, she's making fun of that. But it's not exactly.
It's not that.
No, it's not really. It's like maybe like 5% that, but it's not really what she's doing. This is someone who I think has, maybe to the point of the first woman's tweet, has underscored the absurdity of modern communication and has identified that the most banal, unstructured, aimless forms of internet distraction are both can be artful and monetized and also will be watched by tens, presumably hundreds of thousands of people. That makes me worried in the big picture.
I want to pull back.
I sound like a fuddy-duddy.
I
this
know.
episode.
I want to pull back
Am
and
I a
talk about
fuddy-duddy?
sometimes in these contexts, we are all fuddy-duddies. Not all of us, but most of us. I want to pull back and just talk
fuddy-duddy.
a little bit literally about what's happening when Pinkydoll does
Live.
a TikTok live.
Yeah, sure.
This woman
From Montreal,
who's
mad that Montreal blogs don't cover her.
But they will now.
They will definitely now, but it's like it's just very funny, like of all the things. To be like
she was
the
like,
thing you're
"Where
talking
are the
about."
Montreal bloggers? I'm right here."
To be fair, where are the Montreal bloggers? We're gonna get a bunch of emails, but like that's she's right there.
She logs on to a live. She inhabits this character, this
she's
video game-like
she's dressed
character.
for the part.
Strange movements. I think it's important to note that she's like objectively attractive. It's like this is often, there's some overlap here with the sex work known as camming.
Yes. When you sent the original email, you said anime.
Yep.
Cam girls.
Yep.
Twitch streams.
Yep.
I mean, it is living at the intersection of a lot of those online spaces.
Yes.
That are designed for the transmission of intimacy.
Yes.
And she's doing an interesting thing, playing with this intimacy in the most unintimate way possible.
Yeah. So then what's happening is you can tip in the form of essentially emoji objects via TikTok.
But there's money.
There's real money behind it.
Yeah.
Small amounts. But for instance, when you send an ice cream cone, she says ice cream.
How many times can I do that before it's weird?
Yeah, it's already weird.
It's already weird?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can send various coconuts. She loves the coconut too. Anyway, as people are rapidly tipping her, she's responding in an automated way. This grants some element of control to the viewer.
You can make her do something, make her respond.
You can make her respond in exchange for payment, basically.
These sorts of microtransactions are the purview of some other kinds of websites that we will not talk about here.
And also Twitch.
Yes, and also Twitch, which we will talk about.
What I think is really interesting is that there's unmistakably a subtext of fetish and sexuality going on here, but it's happening in spaces that are pretty closely regulated for such things. Do
you think TikTok is regulated for those things?
Oh yeah, you can't have nudity on TikTok.
Oh, that kind of. Okay, yes,
yeah,
right. And I think you also cannot explicitly link to adult content.
Right, which if you follow Pinkydoll's various links, she also makes adult content. This is all related, but there's a lot of subgenres of this kind of stuff where, like, on YouTube, maybe it's yoga videos or, workout, like this sort of camouflaged, is it sexual, is it not sexual? But as we know, on the internet, everything can be sexual if you want it to be. And she said herself, she gave an interview to UK publication, Daily Star, I believe.
On it.
Excuse me?
On it.
On it.
On it.
They're on it.
On it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Daily Star
on it. Yeah, we all follow that. We all follow that Twitter account. Daily Star on it. That's
and she said, I started by just doing lives to try to make money. The other thing she's doing is, I mentioned the hair straightener. She's holding the hair straightener and putting a kernel of popcorn in it and popping popcorn one kernel at a time and just making a pile of it, which I guess is another way that people make money on these lives.
There's any number of TikTok lives that focus on ongoing tasks.
Right.
Like the scraping of the shell of a hard-boiled egg or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I think those are designed for these kind of like micro tips. There's also, I think, it reminds me a lot of the videos on TikTok that are side by side where someone's talking here and then there's some kind of like cooking thing happening on the side. It's geared towards ADD, essentially. So on the one hand, if you're watching the pile of popcorn, that's one entry point for the video. If you're watching her respond to the comments, that's another point in the video. If you're looking at the comment stream, that's a third entry point in the video. It does feel very of the moment in that way.
Right. But what she said was, I just want to be famous. I just want to make money online like everybody else.
Girl, me too.
Yeah, and as she sat there, she realized people were asking her for stuff. She said she'd never heard of NPC streaming, but that people, when they would send her stuff and she would respond in a certain way, it would make them do it more. And then she got deeper and deeper and seemingly perfected this character. I guess, like,
Except when she breaks character.
There's a couple amazing clips of her breaking character to yell at her kid off screen.
In French.
And in English.
Oh, in English. I've always seen the French one. Okay. Yeah.
Go back to bed. Okay, then I'm coming with you. Okay, guys, I gotta go.
But, I guess it comes back to the same place for me always, which is like, is this pursuit of fame and money by any means in our culture? Is it always like this and we just have new mediums, new pathways, or have we truly melted one another's brains to the point where all we can think of is ice cream so good, just on loop. Like, how depressed does this make you, I guess, is my question.
It doesn't depress me in the exact same way as maybe it depressed the person who originally tweeted it. Like, have you tried watching linear television recently?
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And especially network. Like, I have a soft spot. Like, you might catch me in the house with a little HGTV on the background. You might catch me a little Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dive. Shout out Karen. You know, might have like 6 Guy Fieri episodes running back to back. Like, but I'm not watching. I'm not just like sitting. I'm not doing this and like staring. You know, you have it on in the background, much like Popcast Deluxe.
It's a third screen experience.
Boy, is it.
Yeah.
So, to me, that culture and like everything that people are fighting to protect right now, there's some small part of me that's like, some of it can burn to the ground.
Okay.
Like, you know, linear television, like procedurals, most things on CBS, like that stuff to me is far more depressing than this. To me, it's viral comedy. It's now it's become self-aware, but it's not self-aware in a way where I think the self-awareness ruins the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's leaning in, it's exploiting the absurdity that it has awakened. I don't think this will last forever. I think by this time next week or 2 weeks from now, I think it's unlikely to keep being there.
I mean, Pinkydoll is going to have a rap single by next week or the week after. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
it's
so like literally, who's producing the Pinkydoll debut?
Well,
single?
it's either Timbaland or it's ATL Jacob, both of whom are heavy in her views and comments.
Yeah. She's booked on Rolling Loud.
Yeah, headlining in Latvia or wherever the next Rolling
great.
Loud is.
It's going to be great. I can't wait for the viral clips of someone
Oh no, don't put that into the world. No. They're going to be throwing an ice cream cone at her.
Cone, coconuts.
Yeah.
There's going to be like at the fence, at the security thing of Rolling Loud, there's going to be like a pile of coconuts.
Yeah, no coconuts allowed.
Coconuts
yeah, and she's already come out and said, Cardi B, contact me, like Doja Cat, whoever, Timbaland, thank you for watching my videos. And I do think it's important to note, like, Pinkydoll is not the first person to do this. This is a sort of video game, manga, anime world. There's this girl, Cherry Crush, who like wears the elf ears and like has the wigs, and this is a subgenre, but she sort of, as a young, conventionally attractive Black woman interacting with other Black celebrities online, like she's sort of pulling those
microcultures
into a mainstream, and she is compelling.
Yeah, she's good at it, and
she's a good screen presence, and like this is where we find it's not that different from Cardi B making shmoney videos in 2000 whatever it was.
Not at all. And also, like, there is something ASMR-y about this.
Yes.
And I'm not huge into ASMR as a thing, but I think for a certain person who is schooled in virality, for a certain person for whom watching Twitch streams or maybe other types of people who transmit themselves on the internet
for tips.
Yes, systemically, like, this might be incredibly soothing. A little bit of a this is like what I do to like come down from the other stuff.
I do love the balloon pop noise. It's like she's so good at it.
Can you do it?
No. I'll leave it to the experts.
You sure? There you go. There you go.
Something like that. I was off the top.
Will someone make a clip account, please? Want that carved out.
So yeah, we'll be reviewing her mixtape
2 weeks from now.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Like, I feel like we know the 3 people who are probably already trying to sign this individual to a record deal.
Yeah.
She's gonna rap in French or English though.
Oh, it'd be cool if she did a little bit of both.
I'd like to see that.
That would be all current.
Yeah. That'd be like, like big in Europe, big in Canada, take that Canadian energy, bring it. It's great.
Or Drake's gonna bring her on stage
tonight. I guess I do have to go to the show.
John, what have you been listening to?
Speaking of things that really only register when you watch them, have you seen the new Troye Sivan video?
I have. Not safe for work.
Well, this is our work.
I know, but by the strict definition of the rules. Did you get the little thing? Like, did YouTube say, like, are you sure you want to watch? Like, did you have to, like, verify your birthday?
Did you?
I think I have it, so it doesn't ask me such questions.
Yeah, I must. I don't think I got that. So the Troye Sivan song that came out on Friday.
Rush. Named for...
I certainly would never know the answer to that question.
Beats me.
Yeah, just... Troye Sivan having a moment.
The breakout star of
The Idol.
the hottest show of the summer.
Is it a safe space to say, I still have not watched the finale of The Idol?
Wow, okay.
Admittedly, that was like a stressful week for me.
It's a
work-wise.
stressful episode of television, too.
I think I probably knew that I could not afford to lose the time and the emotional well-being that would come with watching the finale.
Wow, okay. You admit this is news to me live on air.
Yeah, so please don't spoil it.
Okay. Troye Sivan in The Idol and in the finale. Actually, incredible performance.
Probably Troye Sivan and Rachel Sennett,
Yes.
my two favorite performances on the show.
Yep.
A thing about Troye Sivan is if you listen to the early Troye Sivan music, I always felt it was right up against this kind of like potentially global pop stuff.
Yeah.
But there was something that was always a tiny bit, I don't know if it was restrained or
No, it just
not quite
wasn't.
fully-
It just
not
wasn't.
quite
They
fully
just weren't
cooked.
hitting.
But it was close. And I said this on the Padam Padam episode of regular Popcast. But Troye Sivan, when I first saw him on at Webster Hall, however many years ago, I was like an actual star.
A huge star.
Actual bona fide, real damn star.
But without the body of work.
It was strange watching someone be such a star without the star-making stuff.
Right.
That was weird. But Troye Sivan himself, a total star.
I mean, a YouTuber originally.
Yeah.
Which I think,
Who among us?
you know? Yeah.
Solidarity. So Troye Sivan has never quite had the music that lined up with what feels like this very effortless charisma. So an interesting thing I think happened even before The Idol, which is I feel like his TikTok and IG presence was spicy.
Yep.
He was just like, I'm outside.
Yeah.
Like your boy is outside.
Yep.
We're talking tenderness. We're talking eroticism. I'm just stepping into my fullness as a grown-up.
Yep.
That was something that I noticed. And I remember thinking the first few weeks of that transition, I remember thinking like, be interesting if this spills over into the music. And boy, has it.
Yeah.
This is a great moment to watch Rush. And 18 plus? Do we have to put some kind of...
Ish. Yeah.
Sure. Here's Rush.
Heartbeat racing, my body blazing. I feel the rush, addicted to your touch. Oh, I feel the rush. It's so good, it's so good. I feel the rush, addicted to your touch.
So also, there is this album cover, and album cover is Troye Sivan, kind of photographed from here up, head back, smiling between a gentleman's legs. And he told a story in an interview, I don't remember with whom, he doesn't like to see himself smile. He has like an issue with that.
Huh. He doesn't
feel,
smile a lot in The Idol.
No, he doesn't feel comfortable smiling in photos specifically. And so on the day of the shoot, there were a lot of like serious photos, like sexy photos. And then someone told him a joke or said something offhand while he was in that position. And he kind of gave like an offhand laugh. And he said there's one frame on the contact sheet of catching him halfway in a smile, and that becomes the album cover. Now, I think having an album cover that feels that confident, that loose, that sexually playful, that relaxed, that feels really promising for me. Not to be all idle about it, but is Troye Sivan really what The Idol is about?
Wow. Okay. I mean, he fits
Again,
the
I have
mold.
not watched the finale,
Right.
but or maybe the question is the battles, internal or external, that Troye Sivan has been navigating for the last X amount of years, are those actually parallel to some of the themes of the show?
I think
Don't spoil it.
I think you could definitely read some of that into it. So this album, Something to Give Each Other, comes out in October. Like, what do you think of the musical direction here? Because this, to me, feels like very of a piece with this dance music moment that we're having
Absolutely.
across popular music. I think it especially works for, a gay musician who is trying to find something to grasp onto sound-wise.
Yep.
Like, is this Troye Sivan's sound, and how does it differ from what's come before it?
I think what I would say is it's a sound that feels less specific to him, but it does feel like it has a tremendous amount of potential. I don't think this song takes full advantage of his voice. I think he's a better singer than this song allows for. But I also wonder, are we Trojan horsing a little bit here? Like, is it, in essence, more important to get Troye Sivan a hit than to have it be the most Troye Sivan hit of all time?
Yeah, I
Look at
mean,
us, just a couple of suits here.
That's what. But
trying
like,
to make a pop star.
90s type beat, like that's fine. That could be enough for
totally
a first
fine.
single.
Yeah. So I think if I was in the room, at that long conference table where you got marketing, you got PR, I got product management,
Just like in The Idol.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we've been in those rooms. Like, I was in the room and I was like this.
It's a hit.
We got one. There we go. That is cosign. Troye Sivan, Rush. Get excited. What do you got?
Okay, so my song of the week is not so much a song that I enjoyed, but a song that I enjoyed somebody else enjoying. This to me is
Pinkydoll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you watched it, you did this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one time too many.
Yeah. To me, the best way to enjoy, to be convinced that music is good is to watch somebody else love it.
Yeah.
Especially somebody who you feel like has pretty good taste, or like who is a good vessel for enthusiasm.
Are you saying this is like when I went to that Jacob Collier show and ended up sitting
Exactly.
next to the guy who was some NFL, like a rookie in the NFL, who was the
Biggest
world's biggest Jacob Collier fan?
Exactly.
And perhaps the only person that could have ever convinced me to enjoy Jacob Collier.
And it worked, did it not?
For the space of like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It worked. Then I returned to my senses.
And okay, so that's on one pole. And the other side is like you're on a car trip with a friend and they're playing you a song that they love and they're just like losing their mind singing along to it.
Yeah.
And like you'll always associate the memory of hearing that song for the first time with seeing the joy on somebody else's face.
First time, I would never give someone the aux.
And that's
you come in my car, you don't get the aux.
That's the experience that I had watching this clip of Post Malone backstage.
A famous musician.
A very famous musician backstage singing along to a song that when I hit play, I did not know what the song was.
When you hit play on the video of him singing.
Correct.
You had not heard that previously.
I had not heard the song.
You knew the band, though?
I didn't know the band. I had when I clicked on it, I was going in totally blind.
Wow. Okay.
And I saw Post Malone. We'll just watch it. But Post Malone running around a green room, screaming his heart out. And I was like, is this a song from the 90s? Is this a song from third wave emo? Like, what is, like, where does, like, I'm like, this sounds familiar to me, but I don't know it. And so I Googled the lyrics. And I come across this band, Military Gun. This is a band that people I know and respect have written about.
Yep.
They put out
good newish band.
Yes.
Hardcore-ish.
Yes. So they're sort of doing this thing that a lot of these
Don't come at me, a hardcore podcast.
Yeah, they're doing this thing that a lot of successful hardcore bands are doing at the moment, which is broadening their sound with a bit more melody, dare I say.
Everyone is entitled to melody. It's fine.
Go back and listen to the hardcore episode of Regular Popcast with John, Tom B, and Chris Ryan. Hall of Fame episode,
Really,
I'll
really.
say, as
Yeah.
a listener.
I'm happy to know that. I really enjoyed it.
Hall of Fame episode.
I still have those playlists on my Spotify.
Military
Really, really
Gun, a band from Los Angeles. just put out their debut album. Just another one of these bands that's been putting out a lot of music, but then like gets a new push, and then all of a sudden it's their debut. So like I'm sure whatever this third Troye Sivan album is also going to be his debut album.
If you're Troye Sivan's publicist, do not email us and say it's his debut.
Yeah.
Don't do it. So a couple EPs, All Roads Lead to the Gun.
Yep.
All Roads Lead to the Gun 2.
Yep. And then like a collection of all the EPs, and then now Life Under the Gun came out in June.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it all the way through. Do It Faster, the first song, less than 2 minutes. This is the one Post Malone loves. The only thing I'll say,
is going.
I learned recently that they're signed to Rock Nation management.
Yup.
And I'm like, is this paid promo? But here's where I landed.
Do you think, has anybody memed up the Jay-Z listening to Grizzly Bear video?
Here we go.
To Militarie Gun?
Here we go.
Because if I worked at Rock Nation in the social marketing department, I'd be queuing that up right about now. That's all I'm saying.
It's good.
And frankly, if we make it 3 days past the release of this episode, and no one has done that, either as a Popcast listener or as a social media person at Rock Nation or Loma Vista Recordings,
right?
Y'all are missing the boat. Like you're welcome. You're welcome.
I guess where I landed with this is I don't know if Post Malone was paid to
enjoy
Militarie Gun, but he's enjoying it so much.
Boy, is he.
He's not good enough of an actor to fake this.
I don't know that.
This man loves this song, and now I love this song. So thank you, Post Malone.
Waste my time, waste my life as I sit and wait for you. I don't see what's up to me. Why I got to be your stooge.
It should also be said, this is maybe the best viral marketing possible for the upcoming Post Malone album.
No, it's not. That's the other thing.
No, it's in
You
the
think it
sense
is?
that in the sense that
It does nothing to make me want to listen to Austin.
no, but here's the thing. Prior to this, had it actually crossed your mind that there was a Post Malone album coming in the next 3 weeks?
No.
And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, well, you just gave him a plug.
No, not Spawn.
Not Spawn.
Not
Never
Spawn.
Spawn.
I think, Post Malone has been in an interesting position the last few weeks or last couple months. There was a clip of him maybe like talking to fans backstage at a concert or kind of in like a VIP-ish area, kind of like maybe looking a little awkward or uncomfortable. He seems to have lost a little bit of weight and fans were concerned about his well-being. And I feel like that's the last Post Malone clip that went viral.
Yeah, that's the headline. Yeah.
And so this does some work in like shifting the narrative, which is why if it's not Rock Nation promo, it might be
Post Malone promo.
Republic Records promo.
I mean, it's good.
It's working.
It's working.
It's doing both.
Yeah.
Should we take a question?
Let's take a reader question.
Well,
A
I
viewer
think
question?
A
A listener question?
a friend question.
Yeah, a question from a friend.
Yes. I think you have something that you pulled.
Our question this week comes from Elliot online in the Discord group.
Popcast Discord, tinyurl.com/Popcast Discord to get involved, or Popcast Facebook if you're more in the Facebook group.
I will say I've been spending more time in the Discord lately, and I just love it. Like the level of conversation is so high,
Yeah,
and I'm not just saying that
to be nice.
to be nice or because there are people, but like smart people.
Yeah, no, I mean, they say you don't get to choose your fans. That's what famous people tell you.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Right.
We chose y'all.
And y'all chose us.
And y'all chose us.
Elliot online asks, why is the Mason-Dixon line divide in music taste still so pronounced in the internet era? Bailey Zimmerman and Big X The Plug, for instance, are clearly both huge, but I, a northerner, hadn't been on either of them until this month, and I don't think I'm the anomaly. Great
Okay.
question, as usual.
Well, I think, okay, so the Bailey Zimmerman, Big X The Plug, slightly two different things. Similar structurally,
Right.
but she's similar. Bailey I've written about. I did maybe the first big profile of Bailey. Came out a couple months ago. I would be willing to guess most Bailey Zimmerman fans don't know that story exists.
Oh yeah, because they're not New York Times.
They're not New
readers.
York Times readers. Like, it wasn't. I actually thought it was notable. It was not promoted on like main channels. Like, totally different. Like a little bit more for like tastemaker industry audience. That's it's my.
It's hard to sell some country above the Mason-Dixon line.
So I hear, but I'm here like.
And it's hard to buy the New York Times below the Mason-Dixon
That's
line.
deeply sometimes also hard to buy on my block, which is perverse. I will say, I am someone that tries really hard to cover country music, not as people would hope it would be, but as it actually is. And that's not saying that one way is good or the other way is bad, but I don't think that the solution to engaging with contemporary Nashville is just to say, damn, I think all the alternative stuff or the kind of like more politically progressive stuff is what's worth covering. I think you have to assess this is a huge genre with a lot of stylistic and creative limitations, but also tremendous amount of talent. How do we take it?
And a
on
humongous audience.
Yeah, huge audience. How do we take it on its own terms? That's a sidebar. I want to talk about Bailey. I want to talk about him more in an upcoming episode. We've got something that we're working on that I think we're going to get into Bailey. But I think the country question more broadly, that Mason-Dixon line is real. But I do think the Mason-Dixon line with country weirdly extends to parts of California, the Midwest, even like the northern like the
it's
Dakotas
a squiggly
and Montana.
line around metropolitan areas.
Yeah, and even frankly, it's a squiggly line around northeastern metropolitan areas, because I think if you go to Chicago
or Maine,
yeah, it's basically like you probably listen to all the Bailey Zimmerman you want. If New York remains the only big city, and we used to have Nash FM, we no longer have Nash FM. I think the way that country is structured, it's so radio heavy, it's so radio focused, and stardom is generated through those channels. It's not to say that people don't stream well. Bailey Zimmerman's like very good on TikTok, or has been very, very consistent on TikTok. He streams well. Obviously, Wallen streams well. Luke Combs. But by and large, the star-making vehicle in country remains country radio. And if you choose to create a media diet that doesn't include country music, obviously you're going to be walled off. But I don't get the sense that that's what this person's asking. I sense that this person's like, I'm kind of paying attention, but like somehow it hasn't caught me. How about this? If you are a northerner, if you are someone whose media diet does not ordinarily include contemporary country music, can I interest you in a Bailey Zimmerman song? Can I interest you in a Bailey Zimmerman song?
I love Bailey Zimmerman. Let's
you?
go.
Let's
great
go.
album.
Great album. Here's a song that I like a lot because it reminds me a lot of the country hits of the 2000s that would take phrases or turns of phrase that could potentially have multiple meanings and iterate on them. So let's listen to You Don't Want That Smoke by Bailey Zimmerman.
She's got the look, damn right she owns it. She'll break your heart in this bar and she knows it. She'll ask you for a lie, keeps one in a pocket.
I think the answer to this question in general has a lot to do with radio and the power of radio still in 2023.
Yeah.
I think even in rap music, this is the vehicle for which people learn who their stars are. And I think it's still often, despite the few conglomerates that dominate the market, there is still regionalism in radio. The lie of the sort of post-regional internet, I think in recent years has really revealed itself in the sense that people want to listen to people who sound like them or people who they can see on any given night. I think radio and touring are so closely linked. Radio stations are in the business of promoting
tours,
upcoming shows that are going to be in the area. And when you think of Southern rap in particular, the way it is linked to this sort of Chitlin circuit of unofficial shows, of club appearances, that kind of thing. This is a ecosystem where radio is still a kingmaker.
I also think that, we talk about a post-regional music scene and we talk about stars that have broken out from, Lil Baby breaking out from Atlanta, Drake from Toronto, like that. But oftentimes the music that's breaking out has been shorn of some of its specificity. Now, that's not saying that's always the case. Every now and again, I feel like something enters the top 10 on the Hot 100, and I'm like, damn, that literally, like a Moneybagg Yo
Could
record or
only
something.
have come from one place.
Yeah, and it's so intense and so specific sonically. But by and large, I think if we're talking about the biggest stars, Drake, Travis, whoever, they are making music that is somewhat shorn of regional signifiers. But the one thing that I also know from decades and decades of paying attention to this is that if you are relatively new in the game or relatively young, you sound local. You sound local. And eventually you may not sound local, or eventually someone may sandpaper down, or you may make choices to may have a more broad appeal. But what do you want to do when you first are starting out in your career? You want people around you to listen to you. And I think we just worked on a very big package where this comes up a lot, especially with a lot of Southern rappers. You as
Go
a
read
young-
that, by the way.
Yeah,
It's online now.
yeah. I mean, we'll finish this episode, then go read that. You want to sound like the people who are around you know you, that they could be you, they could be around you, they're familiar. Your lingo is familiar, your touch points, your lyrical references are familiar. And so in that way, I still find hip hop extremely regionally specific, even as it is the biggest global force. It is still a fundamentally regional music.
And you think of certain artists that really never shed that regionalism, and they are extremely popular only in pockets of the country. A Kevin Gates, for instance,
example.
like huge on streaming, a pretty big star over the last 10 years, but way, way, way more so in the South. And I think that part of that, and going back to country music, does have to do with an enduring prejudice against country in all senses.
Oh, of course.
Against a Southern drawl, against an accent that sounds quote unquote uneducated. I
Which
think
is
that
not that different from the thing that we're saying, which is like, if you think a country musician doesn't sound like you or sound like people you know,
Yep.
you may also think that Big X the Plug doesn't sound like you. But down south, there's hundreds of thousands or millions of people who think Big X the Plug sounds exactly like them or people they know.
and it goes both ways. I think of a record like Taliban's, the big Byron Messina song that's like humongous in New York, humongous. Arguably the song of the
biggest song
summer.
of the summer. Song
and
of the open car window. of
yeah,
the summer.
exactly. And
Yeah.
people around the country haven't heard it yet.
Probably
and that's because there's a Caribbean influence there that speaks directly to New York immigrant communities, etc. I've given this trick away a couple times now. It's not that secret, but like on all the streaming services now, especially Apple and Shazam, you can get regional charts by city. And it's always a really fun exercise to see, for instance, what people are Shazamming in Atlanta versus what they're Shazamming in New York. There's always going to be some overlap. That's the stuff that's approaching monoculture. And then there's going to be a few things that could only be in one of those places.
Yeah.
So you can do it around the world. You can do it around the country. It's a really fun way to spend some time and discover some records that you're probably not hearing locally.
And also it's the sort of, 10 and 15 years ago when I'm trying to keep track of what's happening. This is like the type of data you would dream of.
Yeah, and
Now
the
it's
old school version of it, I've talked to execs who say like the old school version of it is calling a local record store and being like, what's moving off the shelf?
Or being lied to by that record player.
So you go and sign their friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's time to cleanse.
You want a snack?
I do.
You feeling sweet or savory today? You're feeling sour today, but what do you want to eat?
Like Olivia, I am feeling sour. I think we've done savory.
Yeah.
So I think let's wreck ourselves.
I still taste the truffle in my mouth, by the way.
Gang. How many TikTok points is a truffle chip? Pinkydoll needs to let us know.
Pricey.
Yeah, mad pricey.
All right. This is...
I pulled this.
You pulled this. Where did you buy this?
All right, so upstate, the like quasi fancy grocery store, like 2-3 hours north of the city. They had a pretty robust candy selection.
Is this
a lot of themed
is this candy?
I'm not sure what this is, but they had a lot of
What
themed
food
candy.
group is
they had,
this?
They had the Golden Girls mints. They had a lot of gum. They had Kraft macaroni and cheese gummies, like in the shape of macaroni and cheese.
I've seen those. Are they flavored like macaroni and cheese?
I don't know. We'll
All
have
right.
to find out.
All right.
That's the next
I'm gonna order those.
And they had this. And now I'm a huge Mike and Ike head.
Okay.
Like me and Sean.
Mike,
used
you
to
love a
be-
little bit of dusty candy.
Oh, absolutely. Also, like, you want to talk about dusty candy? I know you're talking about like philosophically dusty, but also like when you bite into a Mike and
That's
Ike,
what I mean that too.
Yeah, the outer layer, the way it cracks, is actually dusty. But Sean and I like the tropical flavors, the kind of like almost like the pastel-y kind of flavors.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, candy is just flavored in colors.
Yeah.
The more pastel-y ones, just I used to keep them in the house. I used to keep like bulk order, keep them in the house, and then at a certain point, I realized they were absolutely terrible for my teeth.
All right.
So I had to let go.
Unlike this stuff.
No, that's gonna be great. No, that's a like a water pick. It's just
Yeah.
all the plaque's gonna come
So
off.
this is Mike and Ike branded cotton candy in cherry orange, lemon, and lime.
Is this an American product?
flavors.
Like, is this like?
Yeah.
This is not like a
Nope.
not a spin
This is
off
domestic.
from another region.
This is domestic.
okay. Do you think it's?
Oh. Did you see that? Speaking of dusty.
Yo, that was incredible.
All right.
Wait,
What flavor are you
I
gonna
don't
go
know.
for?
Like, is it all mixed?
It's in a rainbow.
Let me see. I gotta.
I mean,
visualize.
it's a little mixed.
Can you show that fully to the camera?
Yeah. Can we get a? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks like cotton candy you get. I ate a lot of cotton candy at Orlando Magic games as a child.
I don't even really like cotton candy like that. I bought this because I knew it'd be weird. But now that I'm confronted with it, I don't know how I felt.
It's good. Sour. The cherry is sour.
All right, I'm going to do it in pieces because I'm going to try to like work through the flavors. 4 flavors: cherry, orange, lemon, lime.
I like it.
Oh, God.
I'm into this.
The lime. Damn. Oh, man. When is the FDA calling this a carcinogen?
Yeah, I mean,
This is rough.
cotton candy as an invention is heinous, but this is pretty good. I'm gonna say a strong 6.5, only because if you ate this whole bag, like
You'd have to be hospitalized.
yeah, like for sure. But I like the flavor.
No, I hate the kind of like, oh,
Not into it.
no. So like, okay, the problem is before you get the fruit flavor,
Mm-hmm. It's just sugar.
it's not that. It's like the earthiness.
Nobody has ever said earthiness with relation to cotton candy.
It's like you feel. It's like I feel like you're sucking sweet dirt.
I mean, cotton. That's the cotton part.
Earthy,
All right, you got it.
literally earthy.
Yeah,
Um,
but not literally because this is not actually cotton.
This is evil. This is like a 2 or a 3.
Wow.
This is like these people should be punished.
A 6-year-old would be obsessed with this stuff. I think it's like 6.5. I don't hate it. I'm not gonna eat anymore, but I don't hate it. I like that we almost always disagree on snacks, by the way.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's actually we disagree on snacks way more than we disagree on most other things.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's dismal. That's our show. I'm so sorry to end it on that note, though. That's a real challenge. I need to get some water. Every Popcast ever is at nytimes.com/Popcast. Popcast Deluxe is there in audio form and is also on YouTube at youtube.com/nytimes. Get in the Discord and Facebook. We gave you the addresses earlier. Email us at popcast@nytimes.com. We are taking questions constantly. We're reevaluating ourselves constantly. We're rethinking what we do in life constantly.
We're shopping for snacks.
We're shopping
constantly.
for snacks constantly. Give us some snack recommendations. Oh man, this is rough.
You're hurting.
Yeah,
Your teeth are screaming.
It's absolutely. It's right here. It's like
Yeah.
in the jowl.
Yeah.
It's not good. Subscribe to Popcast anywhere you get your audio or video content. That's Apple or Spotify or YouTube. Our producer is Leslie Davis, assisted by Sawyer Roque. Thank you to Pedro Rosado. Thank you to Karen Gans.
Nel Galogli.
Nel Galogli,
Always.
heavy with the Google Docs. We will be back next week if I recover.